All right, this is day one of me preparing to build a yurt, and I'll show you. Flip around the camera here. Right here is where the yurt's going to go, and it's going to be looking out over the valley there. This is a corner of our property that I thought would be a really pretty place to put a yurt. So I'm going to build a wood base for this one. And the first thing I did was essentially establish the center of the yurt platform, marked it with this rebar, and then used a little bit of a geometry. First thing I did was I just ran a center line, right? So it's super simple. Just run a line out. It's actually going to be a 12-foot radius. I went a little past that. Same on that side. And that's real simple because then I'm just lining those up with each other. By the way, I've never done this before. I'm not really a carpenter. I've built a few things, but this is definitely something that's going to stretch my existing skills. Next, I made a perfectly perpendicular line running this direction. And the way I did this was using a tiny bit of geometry, the old Pythagorean theorem. A 3, 4, 5 triangle will give you a perfect right angle. So you could do this a number of ways. The simple way would be go 3 feet that way, 4 feet that way, and then the hypotenuse, or the final part of the triangle, would be the 5 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot. And if those all match up, you've got a perfect right angle. This all sounds a lot easier than it actually is, because you end up running your string and then you have to keep moving your markers, the one marker, until everything kind of lines up. But that's how I got that, was a 3, 4, 5 triangle. I actually expanded it out to not just 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, but I actually tripled the numbers to give a much larger triangle to hopefully improve the accuracy. So anyway, this is our starting point. And here are the plans, basic plans they gave me for the 24-foot yurt base. And where we're standing here, essentially it's going to be oriented this way. And I did notice that I do want to build a deck right there. So I had to think about, if I'm going to put my center line right here, all of those little beams need to line up for the deck, because you mount the deck to those, as you can see there. So this is something I had to think about with how I put my strings. Is I want the deck to essentially be right here, and those beams are going to be like there and there and there, and then I'll mount the deck right here, and then it'll be looking out. That'll be the entrance to the yurt, and it'll be looking out in this direction. All right, next goal ultimately is going to be marking on the ground where all of these footers are going to go, and these are going to be those square concrete footers you can buy. And so I've already got my center line. I've already got a perpendicular line running in this direction, and they've given me all these dimensions. So I'm probably just going to run some more string, some string here, 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 and here. And once I do that, I'll be able to use these dimensions to determine exactly where to mark in the grass where I'm going to dig the holes. All right, so support beams 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we've got them here. 1, 2, 3, that's the center line. 4, 5, 6, all running parallel to each other. So strings run on each one of those. Each one of these little concrete bases will be right on the line. Should be pretty easy to measure those out, mark in the grass where they need to go. All right, I have marked out all of the spots for the bases. Just measure along the string. There are 20 total. Now I'm going to pull down those strings temporarily and dig 20 holes without an auger. It's going to be fun. I'm going to get some good exercise. All right, we got 2 of 20 holes dug. Just wanted to pause for a moment. Number one, because I'm tired. That is rock and clay, not easy to dig. But anyway, 12 foot deep is what I'm doing. 12 foot, 12 inches deep, about 12 inches square as well. And maybe on the inside ones, I was going to go a little bit bigger, maybe a 16 square and 12 inches deep. But yeah, this is slow going because it's just hard soil to dig in. But I won't torture you with any more footage of this. I'm going to finish those up and then commence after that. Okay, all the holes are dug. That was so easy. Actually not really easy at all. I hired 2 guys to come out with an auger because I was like, it took me 30 minutes to dig 1 hole and I was wiped out after 2 because I'm old and because this ground is hard as a rock. So these 2 guys I hired came out. They were local guys. They were like, hey, anybody need us to do some work? And I said, yeah, help me out. They had an auger, and so they brought it out and they got that thing going. And it would barely get a few inches down no matter what they did. And so they ended up just using my existing hand digging tools and digging these all by hand. Took them all day long. I am so glad I hired these guys because, hey, save me time, and I'm old. So anyway, they were only even able to get down, and some of them maybe 6 to 8 inches. I wanted them to go a foot. But they were toast after a whole day of trying to dig these holes. So we're going to go with what we got and move on to the next phase. All right, I went to the store. I got some of the pier blocks. I'm ultimately going to need 20 of these, but got our first shipment of them. And these are what we're going to put in those holes on top of some concrete that I'm about to pour in there. And I went and got these, which are like the adjustable risers. They've got this nut that you can adjust, you know, to make it a little bit higher, a little bit lower as needed. These were like kind of expensive to buy these versus the blocks that already had them in them. But I'm out here, I'm doing this by myself. I don't have a laser level. I don't want to pay for a laser level. And so I figured it would be easier for me to buy these. So just, you know, as I'm trying to level things myself, if I need to go a little bit higher, a little bit lower on each one, I'll have the ability to do that. It's going to save me time and headache. So that's why I went with those. All right, so here's the general idea. Here's one of our support beams running that direction. So I reran the string and I've got one of the pier blocks in there sitting on concrete and it's level. And so I'm gonna keep an eye on that. But that's the idea. I'm not gonna film every single one again because that would be boring, but that's what I'm gonna be doing for all of these.
Okay, husband, so what are you doing?
Mixing concrete for the pier block footers over there.
Pier block footers. Let me see. So they go underneath the blocks to hold them into place. And they're going into these, let's find a hole, into these holes. And then he's going to attach beams to them for the foundation of the yurt.
Yeah, 4x4s are going in.
You are working hard.
We're hardly working.
Well, good job, my love. Anything else you want to say about this part of the process?
This is the hard part, I think. Well, we'll see. The leveling is probably going to be the hardest part. But it's fun. It's better than being in a gym. Oh.
You want to talk through the process?
No, I just dropped the pier block in the cement. Break out the levels. Start smashing until it's level. And this one was not too hard. I got to make sure that the line lines up, which it does with this line here.
And why does the line have to line up?
Well, the line is basically representative of the big wooden beam that's going to stretch this direction.
Okay.
So the line is what these drop into. So there's going to be a 4x4 that comes up. It's level. All of them will be level. But they all need to be on this line.
Got it.
So they're in a perfect line. The back end of the truck is sunk way down because I've got 1,360 pounds of concrete and tier. I'm so tired I can't speak. Pier blocks behind the back of the truck there. So last load of concrete and pier blocks. Well, that's not good. I was wondering why the stability of the entire wheelbarrow suddenly like started failing. It's just like leaning in every direction. It's almost tipped over a couple times. So I'm gonna need to replace that old rusty bar with like a do-it-yourself wooden brace or something. Fun. Still making good progress here, getting close. All right, problem solved. Look at that. I should start a side business, wheelbarrow repair. Back to work. All right, all 20 pier blocks are cemented in place. You can see the lines there. Things are lined up pretty well. So if you're thinking of doing a project similar to this, let me give you an estimate of the time and materials. So obviously 20 pier blocks. This is a 24-foot yurt. The cement that I used, you saw the holes that I dug. I used 33 bags of cement, but not all those holes were a foot deep. So if they had been, it probably would have been closer to 50 bags, and those are 60-pound bags of cement. So, you know, I would estimate 50 if you're able to dig those holes deep enough. And then in terms of time, I think I've spent 4 full days doing this, and that includes the whole day of the 2 guys digging holes for me. So, you know, if you're doing this yourself, probably I would think maybe 4 or 5 days, depending on your experience level, how fast you are, the tools you're using. I'm doing this mostly alone, mostly with hand tools. So it just kind of gives you an idea. So this is the end of phase 1, and I'll end the video here. Next phase is going to be starting to frame out the actual yurt base. So thanks for watching. Hope this helped.